I'm Doug Cowart along with Scott Munn at the Warrior Alliance Network studios in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, the spotlight is on the Avalon Action Alliance, an organization connecting our nation's veterans and first responders to life-changing care. Today, we'll talk with decorated 26-year Army officer Greg Frey and the VP of Operation at the Avalon Action Alliance about their focus on changing our healthcare system for the better by eliminating barriers like financial and geographical obstacles. Along with partners like the Warrior Alliance, Greg and his team are targeting traumatic brain injuries, post-traumatic stress, and substance abuse, and they're making a positive impact on our nation's veterans across America. So if you know a veteran facing these battles on the home front, you'll want to stay tuned for this conversation.
That's right, Tug. But first, let's review Greg's stellar military career. It's a jaw-dropper. Listen to this. Major Frey served our nation both as an enlisted infantryman, earning 2 Bronze Stars as a Special Forces medical sergeant, and as a commissioned infantry officer, where he commanded companies in Afghanistan and Iraq with the 101st Airborne Division. Major Frey served at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington National Cemetery before earning his Special Forces tab and serving as an SF medic throughout Eastern Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And that's not all. Frey also taught at West Point, where he was also the superintendent speechwriter. And he then culminated his esteemed career as the strategic planner at the U.S. Strategic Command, designing operational plans supporting national security objectives directed by the Secretary of Defense. That's pretty high up. Greg now serves as the Vice President of Operations at the Avalon Action Alliance, where he's continuing the fight on the home front by leading that organization's efforts, developing national partnerships, and locating veterans suffering from TBI. So Tug and I are extremely honored to welcome this decorated veteran into the spotlight. Vice President of Operations at the Avalon Action Alliance, Greg Frey, welcome to the Warrior Alliance Network.
Thanks, Scott. That was a mouthful, Tug. Good to see you as well.
I tell you what, that's
who is that guy?
That's quite a resume.
We had to encapsulate like 40 years of greatness into 2 seconds. So way to go! Thank you for your service.
Absolutely,
first of all,
wow.
And I appreciate. I'm one of thousands and millions of men and women who have worn the uniform, and really, I am taken back a little bit when I think about my journey, and I do think of it as a journey. Right behind all of that, truthfully, is a 17-year-old kid who came from a military family, who joined the Army 2 weeks out of high school, right, and was really given opportunities and mentorship and had setbacks and second chances and really just an opportunity to serve alongside just amazing Americans from across the country. So I hear that, and I just think about that. Honestly, that scared 17-year-old kid who showed up at now Fort Moore, Georgia, to begin his Army journey.
Goodness gracious.
Glad you did.
It's incredible, and I love it, and I salute you. 26 years in the Army, joining infantry as a Special Forces medic before becoming an officer and commanding troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. What drove your decision to serve? And I guess military family probably is the beginnings of it, but what pushed the button for you? What made you do it? And talk about that part of your military experience, because if you can narrow it down, I mean, the experiences you have are unbelievable.
Yeah, thanks for that. Again, I mentioned I'm the youngest of 10 kids. 10 kids. 10 kids in a military family.
That's unreal.
My dad.
God bless your mama.
I know, right? So, right, that's part of it too, right? For the military journey, my dad served 26 years, World War II combat infantryman. But my mom's like at home, like with the moves and the kids. But really growing up in that environment, it was never really overtly discussed about that, career path, but like we live with it, right? Like there's that Toby Keith song, I think,
American Soldier. My old man was that old man who dutifully raised the American flag every morning. He brought it down at twilight, never left it up in the dark, never really talked about his service. But in our window at home, he had a flag with a blue star for every child and every grandchild that wore the uniform. So I grew up with my dad, that unspoken aspect of service. I had brothers that served, so I heard their stories. And between my dad, his kids, and his grandkids, my nieces and nephews, we've got 140 years in uniform. And then there's also our spouses and our other siblings. So it's this really family tradition about service was imbued in us, and it was kind of implicit.
And so I think with that background, truthfully, I stumbled in the recruiter's office the day I turned 17 and talked about joining the Army. And my dad retired in Maryland. I was kind of a tall, lanky kid, and my recruiter took me to Arlington National Cemetery to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. There's a unit called the Old Guard, 3rd United States Infantry, and they do the Army's ceremonial responsibilities in the D.C. area, and one of them is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. 17-year-old kid, I watch a guard change. I was mesmerized, and my recruiter took me underneath the tomb. There's living quarters where the sentinels stay,
right.
And 17-year-old teenage boy got to meet 20-year-old grown men who had just put on a guard change, and I was fascinated. Flawless, inspirational. I couldn't articulate it because I'm a 17-year-old teenage boy. And so we drove back to the recruiter's office. I said, look, you give me a chance to do that, come to my house tomorrow. My parents will gladly sign the paperwork. So I joined the Army, I think because of that aspect of service, but specifically I saw a guard change at Arlington National Cemetery. I said, you give me a chance to do that, I'm in.
I tell you, the story about your dad, as inspiring as that is, the story about your dad putting a blue star in the window for every person that served, maybe the people that didn't serve probably didn't pay it that much of attention, but the people that did, that was the most important thing they saw when they walked in the house. I don't have that, but my grandpa was a World War II Army medic stationed aboard USS Hope in the South Pacific during World War II, hit by kamikazes. These stories that I could relay today, and won't, because I won't do him any justice. But when I joined the Navy, I was the first grandkid, not the oldest, but the first grandson to join the military. And he just said, I'm proud of you, son. And like to this moment, it puts a lump in my throat. And he hung my ship's picture, the USS South Carolina, right next to his picture of his ship, the USS Hope, until the day he died. It was right there next to his lazy boy, as he's gotten older. But so when you tell me, when you paint that picture, I have that same level of reverence and emotion, because it's that pride that nothing can replace.
Yeah, that pride of servicing, and he was super quiet about it. But I remember, again, he was an Eastern European immigrant, spoke fluent German, and so as his unit, fought across Germany and got to the concentration camps, that he got called forward to serve as an interpreter. And so from that, when his enlistment was up, he was offered a warrant officer commission and did that for 22 years, and retired a CW4. And again, he was quiet about it, but like you mentioned, like that pride, it was palpable, and you could see it.
Interesting how he pivoted in his career, like you just said, and then you also did that. And I can relate to your story so much as well, just like Tug can. My father, a 20-year man in the Army, he was a military policeman, but he also pivoted. He also taught at West Point like you.
Oh, wow.
And he was also a speechwriter like you for General Colin Powell here. He wrote all of Powell's Army speeches, none of those speeches that were at the Pentagon.
Okay.
Yeah, let's clarify that. So, so anyway, I think pivoting can be a really important thing for military folks that are listening right now, that you might want to find different skill sets in the military. You don't have to just stay with one MOS, right? But how did that affect you in your transition later? Did those pivots make it where it was easier for you, or did you have some of the same problems or challenges, I guess, when you were transitioning out of the military?
Yeah, that's a great question. One, what a great story, from your family. That's powerful. And what a great leader to be involved with from a leadership perspective and the speech writing. So that's a great story. As I think about this, I think, my pivot or, some of my initial challenges or how I thought about coming back from deployments and family happened to me before I took my uniform off. So, and this is really a great backdrop. Like, we're in town for Avalon leadership convening. So we've got every leader from all of our program partners talking about what we do at Avalon. And I think about when I came home, from back-to-back deployments in 2003, that's, I think, when it really hit me maybe a little bit harder than when I got out 10 or so years later. And so, I certainly, as I grew in the military, as I gained leadership skills, as I gained tangible skills, teaching, operationally, speechwriter communications, unequivocally, like those helped me in transition. But I think I shared some of the same challenges as we all do about job, family. When I got out, it was just another move for my kids. So I thought like dad was going to be the king, right? We're done moving. I'm out, we're going to settle. But for my family, it was just another move for them. So that hit a little bit hard. I think worrying about, career and job is a common thread. And also that, for 26 years, my uniform was a physical manifestation of my service, right? Like I could proudly show people, hey, I serve this nation. These are some of the things I've done. These are the men and women I serve with. So, taking that off, admittedly, was tough. And it took me a while to find maybe some identity that I could pull from my military service and strengths, but then, sort of just be Greg Frey in my new career trajectory. That was difficult.
I still to this day talk about the Navy like I was in there 2 years ago, and it's been over 20 years.
Yeah.
So I understand exactly where you're coming from. There is an identity that you pull from that, just that camaraderie, that sense of purpose that you get in the military. It's incredible. You're now the VP of Operations for the Avalon Action Alliance, which helps veterans and first responders heal from the hidden wounds of war. What's the mission of the organization, and how have you and your personal journey led you to join forces with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Until you kind of hit on the intro. So at Avalon Action Alliance, we provide life-changing care for veterans and first responders. And the way we do that is we really tackle the three leading post-trauma impacts that these men and women face. So traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, and substance abuse. And it was very purposeful why we're tackling those three things, right? They're interrelated. I had to look up comorbidity when I first joined the organization, but meaning like there's a lot of signs and symptoms that come with these three conditions that these men and women face. So we tackle all three of them, right? And there's also, so we might treat for 1, 2, or 3 of these post-trauma impacts. And so we've got data, we've got outcome measurements. We can show the work that we're doing has a measurable effect on people. But what we like to say is we give people their life back, right? Like we help them define their journey, whatever that journey is, right? It's going to look, there's 16 or 17 million veterans, right? So quality of life, right? Hey, I want to be a better dad. I want to do this in my personal life. Like I want to be better in my physical wellness. So again, we've got measurable aspects that can show success, but we've got these quality of life aspects where people can get reignite their sense of purpose. They're re-engaged in a community. We hear it all the time, like, hey, thank you to our partners who are doing the work. Hey, you gave us our mom back, right? You gave me my wife back. You gave me my husband back. So I think that those are the powerful aspects of the work we do when we tackle those three interrelated conditions.
Warrior Line Spotlight with our guest, VP of Operations for the Avalon Action Alliance. His name is Greg Frey. You can find them avalonactionalliance.org or at thewarrioralliance.org. Avalon includes first responders in their program and services. A lot of similarities between former military service members and those serving in law enforcement now, firefighters and emergency workers, right?
Absolutely. So one, I think that the core aspects that brings us together is, service members, veterans, first responders, is that sense of community, right? And we talked about this morning, right? So we have communities in which we live and work, and we serve communities. So first responders, active duty, our veterans, like we are service based, and we have that tie with first responders. And truthfully, we all experience some of the same aspects of trauma as we go through our work, from physical injuries, traumatic brain injury, concussions, PTS, and what our first responders see, frankly, that they can see every day at work, and then turn around and go back to work the next day and really have that need to process what they see. And I think the other thing that I want to mention that we do at Avalon is we provide hope, right? Like we never want to let go of hope, right? We never want to forget that the best days are not behind us, right? The best days are in front of us, and that's what I've learned at Avalon. I've gone through a few of our programs myself for me and really learned tools, and that we say that you can grow from trauma, right? Like there is strength in the trauma we experience. And by the way, like there's more trauma coming,
And so, like, what are the tools that we have to deal with that, to choose growth, right, to hang on to hope, and realize that we can actually be better because of our life experiences.
We got a lot of veterans and veteran families, military spouses, also first responders who listen to the show. Tell them how they can get in touch, how can they get started with your organization, and what's the intake process like?
Absolutely, great question. And one, I would just, let's talk about the family, right? So this is definitely a family journey in service, be it a first responder family, active duty family, a veteran family. Like, we certainly understand and appreciate, like, this is a family journey, right? And individuals and families heal together. And there's caregivers out there. I've got many caregiver friends from the work that I do. We know that caregivers are oftentimes maybe the ones that can encourage someone to get into care. And we also appreciate that caregivers have to be part of that journey. Folks can go to AvalonAction.org, learn more about what we do. There's a page that we tried to highlight as best we can that says Get Care. And so folks can start the care journey right from our website. And there's simple drop-down menus, and that gets them connected to intake teams. And what I tell my friends when they call me, when I meet people, when they say, hey, here's what I'm experiencing, I always encourage them to reach out. Like, let our folks on the intake teams, let our case managers, let our outreach teams, like, let our experts tell you what we do. Like, learn and just, like, take that first step. And the other thing we want to do is, like, we want to remove obstacles to care. And what we've learned is, man, it sometimes takes people a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Like, everybody's on a different journey in their life. And the message I want to leave is, like, there's no wrong time, right? Like, it is never too late to reach out for care. At Avalon, we serve pre and post 9/11 veterans. We try and remove as many obstacles as we can. My buddies call me all the time. Just start. Just reach out and just start the process.
Yeah, I agree. And also, if you're a veteran listening right now, just go to AvalonActionAlliance.org and thewarrioralliance.org and check it out, because maybe it's not you, but maybe you're talking to your buddy at the VFW next week or something.
Or a family member.
And you just want to be aware, and you want to know what the resources are. And also, there's ways that you can get involved, maybe help out or get, So I would just go check out the website. Again, it's AvalonActionAlliance.org.
Yeah, thanks for correcting.
That's all right.
Yeah, I left a word out.
I threw a "the" in there, too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. But that's a great message, right?
Yeah.
And so thank you for reinforcing that. Like, it's not always about us, but, like, what can we do for somebody else? Like, who in your life is experiencing something that could lend a hand, right? And just that connection, that text, that phone call,
yes,
like, whatever that message is, man, it is deep and it's powerful, and I know what it means to me. So thanks for reinforcing that message. Like spread the news about where folks can go.
Well, because like you said before, we're a big military family, and so we got to be ready to help our family members all the time. And speaking of that, you've joined the Warrior Alliance family now. Avalon Action Alliance is now an official community partner at the Warrior Alliance. How do you see the partnership benefiting warriors and their families?
And again, we are grateful to be part of the Alliance. We're grateful to be a partner. I think it's just growing out of community, right? I think one of the challenges veterans and their families have is, how do we get into care? Where do we find resources? It can be dizzying, right? And it can be difficult. So I think when we build this community of organizations that are purely focused on taking care of people, and they share resources and they share programs, that's powerful. And that's how we get after it. And I think that's the benefit of Avalon Action Alliance and the Warrior Alliance working together. Like, we focus on what we do well, and we've got trusted partners that we can literally do warm handoffs with to do things we don't.
Yeah, I mean, the military, the government is not going to do it for you, and your CO is not there to tell you to do it anymore. Your drill sergeant's not there to drill it into your head anymore. It's all you, and you have to start by reaching out, getting in touch with folks like the Avalon Action Alliance. And let's talk a little bit about you and your education, your personal life, if you don't mind. We want to hear all about that. And I'm really excited about something. I know you're a Princeton man, but
that's big time there.
My favorite part of your educational history is that you got your BA at the University of Alaska Anchorage. Go Seawolves!
Because Scott he was stationed up there. His dad was.
All right, yeah, there we go. Go Seawolves!
Yeah, we were at Fort Richardson. Were you there?
Absolutely. That's why I finished my degree when I was at Fort Rich.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. And people don't know that's really the biggest military installation in the world, because it's Fort Richardson on this side, and then it's Elmendorf Air Force Base on this side, and that's how we won the Cold War, isn't it?
That's absolutely it was at We Mighty Band at Fort Rich. That was a great, great experience, a great assignment. And again, same thing. 26-year journey. I'm super grateful. Princeton. So if people saw my academic records, if they knew my Special Forces team leader was giving me City College of Chicago video classes in our safe house in Dahook, northern Iraq. So I just think it's a journey, right? So like I'm grateful for my educational experiences, but I took a bunch of CLEP tests at Fort Liberty as an SF guy going through language school. So I think my message is everything is sort of attainable, right? I think if folks put in the work, and then I would be remiss if I didn't think about everybody that pushed me, right? I think there's something to be said for tough love. Right?
Yes,
I think there's something to be said for having a loyal adversary in your life
to challenge you.
Yeah, look you in the eye and not tell you what you want to hear, tell you what you need to hear. And so, I had plenty of people at like these critical junctures in my life, family, friends, peers, give me some tough love, right? Give me some encouragement. Be in that place where I needed whatever it was I needed at the time. You mentioned it, like reach out, see what folks need. So I finished my degree in Alaska when I was at Fort Rich. So again, it was another kind of part of my journey. But I'm one of thousands and millions of veterans that have like these unique journeys of their own. And I think everybody's got a powerful story.
Greg Frey is our guest. He is the VP of Operations for Avalon Action Alliance. And I want you to talk about your wife, Linda. Y'all live outside of San Antonio and got 3 beautiful daughters.
That's right. So thank you for asking about Linda and our daughter. So we just celebrated our 30-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I don't take any of that lightly, right?
You shouldn't. I think if you could break out any part of your life, a long marriage is the most important. That's the biggest success that I think you'll ever have.
Yeah. So like when people talk, there's plenty of people in my community that don't know I serve. They don't, and that is great. Actually, like I'm in that place where I want to be a community member, but when I can leverage military experience to help somebody, I will. Like I was an aspiring Special Forces medic back in the day. The first year of the course was at Fort Sam in San Antonio. So I'm stumbling around San Antonio as a young guy just trying to get through the medic course, and my wife's a born and raised San Antonio girl. So I tell the girls that we met old school, like we met in person in San Antonio.
No swipe left or right or anything.
No, and I dug in like a tick. And the girl just couldn't shake me. So I dug in, and so Linda and our daughters, and they were there for the hard years that so many military families experience, right? The deployments, the uncertainty, the transition of coming home, right? Those are difficult,
Truly.
Right? I remember early SF days, I couldn't figure out, like even if it was a 2-week trip or maybe a 2-month trip or a 100-day trip, like it was just always different in the house, and it took a while for my wife and I to crack the code on, hey, reunions are hard, right? Coming home is hard, and those are some of the things that our men and women in uniform faces, like that coming home, that reintegration, like that being dad and mom again, and like the house has been a certain way while you're gone. Like how do we reintegrate well? And that is hard stuff.
What would you say to military spouses would be a key from the other side for coming home
to make it work?
Yeah, what would be one thing you would tell military spouses?
That puts me in a tough spot.
Well, just take a general.
I'm teasing.
General approach.
Yeah, I'm teasing. I'll personalize it, right? So I think for me was, even when coming home was tough,
And maybe when I wasn't at my best, like my spirit was to be my best, and sometimes it was difficult to be my best, like be my best version of me, and be the dad I wanted to be, right? Be the husband I wanted to be. Like, no excuses, right? No excuses on my part. I wanted to be there. I wanted to do that. Sometimes it was just tough, right? To come home and be home all of a sudden. So I guess that's the message from my experience that I would like to deliver, is that the spirit and the intent and my desire was always there, and I would
it outweighed the circumstance.
Yeah, and I would hearken to guess that most like men and women, when they come home and they reintegrate, like that spirit and that desire is there, but maybe we're just working through some stuff.
And I think that as a big military family with folks like the Avalon Action Alliance and the Warrior Alliance, we've got to take that advice and realize that all of our veterans coming home feel that same way about coming home to our family. And I love what you're doing, and thank you for helping our
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Make sure you go check out AvalonActionAlliance.org. It's AvalonActionAlliance.org, and of course, theWarriorAlliance.org. Mike, have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.